to order. Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Glorick,
Commissioner Glorick here.
Commissioner Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe's here.
Commissioner Walowski, Commissioner Locks,
Commissioner Locke's here.
alternate Albanese,
Alternate Albanese here.
alternate Coles,
Alternate Coles is here.
alternate Coviello, alternate Salvacool, Secretary Santiago,
Santiago is here.
Vice Chair Salka,
Salka is here.
Chairman Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. We have a quorum. I see Steve there. I didn't hear him say he was here though, so
I'm here. I was muted.
there you go. Okay, we have a quorum. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We got Rob or Caleb, so, and everyone's stomach. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we remain standing for a moment of silent reflection? Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting on April 20th, 2021.
Commissioner Salka makes a motion to approve the April 20th, 21 minutes.
Motion by Salka. Do we have a second?
I'll second Santiago.
Santiago with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 7A. Slalomore, I'm going to kill this last name. Oshpanowski.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
No.
Sorry about that. Special permit application for a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 301 East Street in an R2025 zone, parcel size 0.99 acres, special permit number 648. Is the applicant present?
Yes, that's
Okay.
me, Slavomir Olchanovsky.
Okay, if you could identify yourself, give us your address and go ahead and tell us what you plan on doing. I'm not going to shut my door while you do that, so.
Right.
Here, but it's just not showing.
Slavomir Olchanovsky, 301 East Street, Saddington, Connecticut. I would like to build a garage, 3-bay, for personal use only. Mostly I have 2 antiques and some water sports that I'm trying to keep in, enclosed. I was paying for storage for years, and both is just rusting outside. And if possible, I would like to put the garage somewhere on, just like I presented that. You guys have that page, right? The layout. So
We have all the information that was given to us. Yep.
Okay, so I'm still. I mean, I would like to keep the door away from the street, so people like driving by don't see everything on it. And plus, if I face the other way, it's just gonna be the whole front yard is gonna be just the pavement, and it's gonna be 80 feet of driveway. That's why I kind of think about using that gravel driveway and just drive from the left. Otherwise, if I face the doors towards the house, I guess I would have to pave or put the pavers like between the house and the garage. That's another possibility. However it's possible. If of course it's possible. And that's all it is. Just simple garage for personal use. Matching the house colors and design.
Mr. Olchanowski, are you aware that there was a concern that seemed to be raised at the proximity to the water courses and wetlands in that part of your property?
I thought I received something that we on the clear, I believe. There's a stream behind, but, you know, I mean, I can stay more away if we needs to be, but, I thought they gave us okay, my understanding
I
was.
see the email correspondence between the town's engineer and Steve Judas, who is your engineer on this, your designer on this.
And I have that email from the water department that,
Yeah.
that there was no issue.
Is Jim Capone on this? Jim, are you here tonight yet?
Yep,
Do you want
I'm
to
here, Mr.
talk? Do you
Chairman.
want to talk about that part of the application at all?
I did review it. I believe this one pitches away from the street. There's inland wetlands and floodplain in the back, so I don't anticipate any drainage issues with respect to the street. So I did review it. I had one comment. Steve Judas emailed me a response to that comment, which is that the foundation would be outside of the floodplain, which it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else, Mr. Ochanowski, that you'd like to add before we open it up to commission members for questions?
I mean, we drew this way, but it's not lining up with my house. I wonder if I can push this garage a little bit towards the back of the property, so it's lining up with the house, front face of the house. So I can put a fence in between, so it's not gonna be like the jog, awkward, 4 or 5 feet. I can eliminate that overhang in the back. You see the little shaded proposed overhead. That I can eliminate that if I can push that garage back a little, so it's lining up with the front of the house in front of the garage. I mean the side of the garage. It's kind of in one line, if possible.
He wants to move it back.
Okay. Okay, so you're asking to push it back slightly.
Yes.
And
Then, I would like to put the fence because I have the dogs and all and the swimming pool. So I would have to put a fence between the garage and the house. And I would like to have this all being kind of from, face to face.
Just use your eyes and where it shows to share.
okay, Jim Capone, is that what are your thoughts on that request?
The share is right there. Okay. And then
I think Rob's on. I think Dave LaValle wanted it pushed closer to the street to create a little more buffer.
Oh, so we away from so we away from the stream a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Rob Phillips. That was a recommendation by the assistant environmental planner, was to if the commission is favorable to this, that a modification to the proposal be that this entire garage is shifted 15 feet closer to the house, up to 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet.
To the house, okay.
So towards the east.
Yep. 15 feet. Yeah, that's fine.
Would you be okay with that if that was something that we did?
And then can be pushed back or not? So it's lining up with the house. The little short side of the garage facing the street can line up with the house. Right now
that's possible.
Okay. So what is the setback we're looking for from the stream?
Well, I think, like I said, if you can move the garage 10 to 15 feet closer to the house towards the east, you possibly could jog it backward to be in line with the front of the existing house. There'll be enough room there. I don't know how close that gets to your existing building and lean-to you got there, but.
Oh, speaking of the existing building, I find out it's all rotten and it needs to be replaced. So possibly I can put it somewhere else or closer to the swimming pool, away from the stream. It's two sides of that existing shed. It's underground, about a foot, and the floor it's got really rotten. All two sides are that needs to be replaced. Now I was talking to the carpenter. He said it's not the best condition. I'm thinking about, that'll be second application probably on the different permits, but, so if this is on the way, I can, I can make this adjustment with that shed in the background.
Okay, let's, if you're all set, Mr. Ochanowski, I'm gonna open it up to commission members to ask any questions. And we'll start with Commissioner Gwark.
This is Commissioner Gork. My first question was going to be about that wood fence on the southern side. You said if you move the structure back, the wood fence could remain. That was the purpose of moving the structure back. And I was just looking at the FEMA map on GIS. It does look like if you move the building east towards the house, you should be able to move it back that extra 4 or 5 feet or whatever that distance is, so your fence could still be there.
I mean, you have to be rerouted a little bit. I mean, the fence will be gone because you're going to drive it in. But, and actually the fence, that's another problem, it needs to be replaced anyway. So I can reroute that fence probably, or tie into the garage, maybe to the corner of it or something, so.
Okay, and also, what do you plan on? Is the siding of the garage structure going to match your current house? Is it going to look similar? Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Other than that, that was my only question. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe here. The only question I think I have at this point, because I similarly was going to ask about the wood fence that we see there, is the gravel driveway. So is the driveway that you have for your house, is that gravel or is it paved?
No, asphalt, partially asphalt and partially pavers, concrete
Okay,
pavers.
and so you want this to be gravel, the entrance in here?
Oh, no. For the new garage?
Correct.
No, possibly asphalt or pavers at some point. It's hard to.
Okay.
Follow the
So
gravel,
what I'm seeing here to the west of the structure, the gravel area that's outlined, that's the driveway to get into, because you said you didn't want it to be front facing to the road. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be the gravel area, and there's like an area to turn around within there, correct? It seems like the area is extending.
Yeah. That was like a extra parking. Yeah, as those turn around. I don't know if it's gonna be there anymore because we're gonna have some area in the back. Just gonna be typical driveway. I would have to probably lay this out. I don't know how much space they're gonna have and all that, but just gonna be straight driver right into the garage so I can enter those 3 bays.
Okay, I think Commissioner Quirk kind of covered what, the other things I was going to say is that if you did want to push it back to where that wood fence is now, the structure you're proposing, if you did, like you said, want to do away with the overhang, moving that back and to the east might be suggestible, but it will be abutting the existing building. So like you said, if you're going to get rid of that.
I can get rid of that. So, so now going back to that shed, do I have to submit a separate permit for that change? I'll probably have to take this down and rebuild it from scratch.
That sounds like an excellent question for Mr. Rob Phillips.
What was the question? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Existing shed, I'm thinking about replacing that and probably moving a little bit closer to the pool because the corner over it, it's kind of, the water gets really close to it sometimes.
Which shed?
The existing, it's right behind the garage.
Right here?
This one, yes.
Yeah, you just need a zoning permit if you're going to move it.
Zoning permit, okay.
Commissioner Volpe here. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Christina. Commissioner Albanese?
Hi, Commissioner Albanese. I had a couple questions. Is there a way that we can depict the wetland and the stream? I mean, the stream limits obviously must be the channel limits that are shown on here, but are the wetland limits aren't depicted on here, and I probably would like those on there, unless Mr. LaValle does not care about that. I'm assuming this is a slab on grade construction for the garage. So there's really going to be, is there going to be any excavation whatsoever?
For the footing, I believe still.
For the footings, right.
The frost, yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah. And then obviously you're going to have erosion control measures in place when you're constructing, silt fence because we have wetlands and the water body right there. My only other question is, and this could change the design, and I don't know if it's, what I'm not liking is the orientation of the garage. Is there a way that the garage can be orientated so that you would void that whole gravel area that, or the proposed pavers and asphalt that you would be putting in for the new access to the garage, and come in through your existing driveway and curve in and then enter the garage that way? I just think it would be more efficient. You'd pull it away. You'd still be able to pull away from, meet the requests of Mr. LaValle, the environmental planner, and pull it away from the stream more so.
So, but we still have to move it east 10 to 15 feet first, right? The whole garage.
Yeah, but you still, it looks like you have a lot of room there. I mean, what is it, 37 feet that you have there? And then, I don't know, I just think that you're adding additional impervious cover, a significant amount of additional impervious cover that's closer to the stream and closer to the wetland limits, where I don't even know where the wetland limits are. But, I mean, is that something that you could consider? And I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel about that.
It's gonna be a little maybe awkward at first, but I guess we have to sneak. So I have to put like because I would like to fence this area between the house and the garage, right from the corner, the facing the street. So I'd have to just install some kind of like a slide gate of some kind, vinyl fence probably. And the driver will continue. That's going to be occasionally used. It's not going to be every day, really. More of a Sunday thing.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
We can do yeah, that's possible. Yes, I don't mind having the driveway from between. Then I would have to just continue with the pavers probably and pave the entrance to those garages from the east.
I mean,
then we can eliminate the whole gravel area in the back.
Rob, how do you feel about that orientation? Do you think it's, and Mr. Capone, do you think it's a better orientation, or it wouldn't work, or do you think, avoiding that additional gravel area would probably be a better approach?
I missed the very last sentence. It broke up. Something about gravel area, different approach.
Yeah, as far as a different orientation and approaching the garage and entering the garage entrance from their existing bituminous driveway.
Yeah, no. If that's feasible to them, I don't see why that would be an issue. I don't know if Jim has an opinion.
As Jim Grappone, is it a complete 90-degree rotation you're looking for, Commissioner Albanese?
Whatever would work, as far as to move it still away to meet the environmental planner's request, and also to orientate it so that he'll be able to get the right radiuses he needs to get into his garage. Of course, that's a concern, I'm sure.
So,
but I'm looking at it as adding additional gravel and pavers and asphalt for that whole location to the west.
So, Commissioner Albanese, are you talking about referring to adding, if you can see my cursor, pavement here? Because you can't move you can't move the proposed garage any closer than the 40-foot front yard.
Right. No, I'm saying shift it, just orientate it at a right angle.
Oh, shift the garage towards the
front facing? Are we talking about complete reversal to the entrance to the garage to be at the house side, or front facing to
east facing to the east street, exactly.
Okay. If the Jim Grappone, if the orientation could remain, maybe the applicant would consider. I know he mentioned stone or pavers, is maybe pervious pavers between the gravel and the new garage, or maybe just putting in all like a large infiltration trench, which you can recharge, which would recharge the roof drainage back into the groundwater.
Okay. All right, that would be acceptable to me.
Jim Grappone, the second curb cut is an encroachment permit from Public Works Engineering, right? That's not an issue.
Well, I'm looking at, he's utilizing the existing stone curb cut, right?
It's already there.
I think it's already there.
Okay.
Yes, it's there.
Correct.
Okay.
There's
So
really
the
no
The
curb.
issue would be the roof area and the additional pavers between the new garage and the existing gravel. And there's pervious pavers that could be installed in there or a stone recharge trench, as I mentioned, which I think are low-cost items. If the orientation, if the, moving it to the east as Mr. LaValle recommended, I think it would serve two purposes and still keep the orientation that the applicant's looking for, but.
Okay, all right, great. That's acceptable. I agree. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Teresa. Before I move to Commissioner Woloski, I want to mention that item 7E on our agenda tonight, which is a Landing Street application, that the applicant has requested a continuance, and therefore we won't be doing anything. The hearing will be continued to our next meeting, which is scheduled for May 18th at 7 o'clock. We're still willing to take anybody who'd like to speak on it, but there won't be any thing further on that. So if there's people on the line who would rather come back on the 18th, that's fine. If you want to stay around tonight and wait for that to come up, that's fine also, but it's up to you. I want to make sure you knew that that was an option. But again, item 7E will be continued. The public hearing will be continued from tonight at the request of the applicant. Commissioner Woloski, any questions on this application?
Yeah, I guess my only question would be, if the structures move 15 feet towards the house, there was a mention of the overhang being eliminated. I just want to know from the applicant, is the overhang part of the project or is it not?
No, it can be eliminated, no problem.
But is it something you want to eliminate, or?
If it's gonna be, I would rather have this garage pushed back so it's face of the garage, face of the house. So in this case, we would have to eliminate it because it's gonna be on top of that existing shadow in the back.
Okay, when I'm looking at this plan, I see that the front of the house is 44.6 from the setback line, and the garage is 43. So it's about a 3-foot difference. You're looking for 3 feet to push it
Yes.
back 3 feet.
Yes.
So Commissioner Hammersley, if we stipulate that the building gets moved 15 feet towards the house and that the overhang is eliminated, we can do that for approval.
Okay.
So it does have to be 15 feet, or I can get around with 10 because I don't want to make the alley. Still want to have some backyard in the back. You think 10 feet will be feasible? We go east with this garage.
Yeah, I think 10 would be fine. Rob Phillips.
All right. So should I make the new map, put everything on fresh proposal for the next meeting, or?
Well, Mr. Orlowski, we still have to get through a number of other commissioners, and ultimately it's up to the commission to decide what the range is. But it was the request of town staff to move it between 10 and 15 feet closer to the house. So that's kind of what's in front of us. And I think, Steve, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like that's what you were referring to. You're on mute, Steve.
I know that's a range. I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
What Dave was thinking, 10 to 15. I mean, we can split it at 12 and a half. It just, if the structure is getting moved closer to the house and he's getting a 3-foot setback from the street, then I think that's a fair compromise.
Yeah.
Plus
Okay.
the overhang, that's that corner of the overhang was the closest part, so that's gonna be away. So we should be in better shape. Okay.
I'm
Steve,
good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Commissioner Coles? You're on mute, Caleb.
Here I am.
There you
Hi,
are.
Commissioner Coles here. I don't have a ton of questions. If you could just one more time for the record, just explain to us the vehicles that you're going to be using in the garage, please.
Oh, it's I have a 1988 Land Rover Defender, a small, like an old Jeep. boat, I have some jet skis, and I have some just cars, even for the winter, I want to park car inside if possible, or storage, well, it'll be really Sundays things that will be used for. It's not gonna be almost even everyday used. Maybe in the winter I gotta tack away my truck, but because I can't park inside that under the house, it's very small.
How many, you have 2-bay garage already on the existing structure?
I do, but my SUV fits, but I'm afraid we're gonna lose the mirrors one day. I have an inch of space between when I'm parking and 2 inches on the top, and my truck don't fit at all. And my kids just got licenses, and I'm afraid one day it's just gonna be disaster. So almost all the cars are parked outside most of the time, but.
So this will actually remove some of the outdoor parking and probably a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Maybe one bay, but it's probably gonna be between both, one bay. I have that convertible second bay and third bay, maybe my truck or one of the kids' car. We'll see.
I think my colleagues had asked most of the questions that I was looking for, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb. Commissioner Locks?
No further questions at this time.
Okay, thanks to Commissioner Santago.
I have nothing as well. Thank you for everybody else to ask. Everything I was thinking, I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Salka?
Just one question. I'm looking at Google Earth, and I'm not sure of the date of the Google Earth picture, but it shows that the pool is toward the front of the house versus the schematic that was shown. It shows the pool almost closer to the shed. And I'm just wondering if that's still, did you in fact move the pool at one time?
No, that's
So the schematic doesn't seem to match up with the Google Earth picture. So the only concern I really have right now is that the schematic, I think it needs to be updated before we take a vote. So we really know what we're looking at. We're talking about removing the overhang. We're talking about moving the shed closer to the home and actually moving it back. I think we said it was going to be 3 feet. There's some question on what kind of driveway is going to be there. I really think we need to finalize or formalize what we're really going to vote on instead of stipulating all of this. I would like to see it, put it back on the agenda for the next meeting with a more formal schematic.
Okay. So let's say asphalt. I think asphalt would be the pavement that we can use for the new driveway. And like I said, I can put this all on a new drawing and present it again.
Mr. Ochanowski, did Steve Judas do this over at Harry Cole and Sons? Did he draw that up for you?
Yes.
Is Steve on this call or on this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Steve, do you want to talk about anything that's been mentioned at all, or?
Well, the sketch that the applicant is using is actually an A2 survey, so the pool should be accurately depicted. I was going to try and see what the difference was on the GIS.
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Gwork.
Yep.
The GIS, the 2019 aerial, it's a trampoline that I think Mr. Salka's confusing as an above ground pool, possibly. He's on mute.
Bob, you're muted.
That could very well be. It looks like it's got a black cover on the pool, so it could very well be a trampoline. I don't know.
Yeah, I see the shadow. It looks like the netting for a trampoline in the shadow. So I'm assuming it was.
There was a trampoline. Right where the garage is right now.
Yeah.
The proposal. Yes, that was a trampoline.
Okay. I apologize.
Okay. But Bob, you still would like to see an updated rendering drawing?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Are there any further questions from members of the commission before we open it up to the public? Okay. As usual, we'll open up to anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this application. Please identify yourself and give us your address for the record, please, and share your thoughts.
Just a point, Rob Phillips, just a point of order real quick. I do have one call-in user that's unidentified. I'm going to request an unmute. You'd have to *6 when you hear the prompt to unmute yourself. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and you can speak either in favor or against, or if you're here for something else, that's how you do it, *6.
So is there any member of the public who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Again, please identify yourself, give us your address, and share your thoughts.
This is Dennis and Sharon Clisham from 17 Rustic Oak Drive. We wrote a letter, I believe you all received it. Our concern was commercial activity on the property. And I think that's been solved already. And the only minor issue would be that I could possibly think of as drainage into the runoff into that wetland area, but I don't think it's a major thing. So there's not opposition here. The notice we received, as I stated, was vague, so we were unclear as to it was going to be a commercial enterprise, and so we have no problem with it. However, we would ask that we be notified when construction will begin, and once approved, or if approved, and how long would the hours that the work would be done. That's all.
Okay. And typically, that's we encourage neighbors to talk to each other. So Mr. Ochanowski, I mean, I don't know that we can require that he notify you when construction begins, but I certainly would request that you do that just out of goodwill to your neighbor, so that they know, and potential hours that you might be out there working. That's always a good courtesy to make to neighbors. And
how can I tell them all the name? I mean, just in person or?
Well, I actually have your information, your email from the special permit application. I can send you my email, and then you can just keep me updated, because there is an elderly person living at the house, and that's just a concern. Someone over 80 years old, you can imagine, you want to make sure they get their sleep. But that's it. That would be, okay. That's the sum total of we have no issues.
Yeah, and I don't think, Mr. Olenowski, that we're asking you to make a burdensome effort, but I think that just, obviously Mr. Clisholm has expressed a desire to know. So I think that if you can make sure a point to reach out to him and his family to make that they know, and then any abutting property owners. I mean, it's always good to let people know what's going on.
Okay. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. Appreciate your sharing that with us. Is there any questions to Mr. or Mrs. Clisholm from members of the commission? I hope I'm saying that last name correctly. Hearing none, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Again, please identify yourself and your address. Hearing none. Mr. Olenowski, you want to say anything else before we move on to the next one, or you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay. Oh, and I think we're going to keep this public hearing open because we have requested, Commissioner Salka specifically requested that an updated rendering be provided to us. So in order for us to comment on that and take it into the public record, we need to keep the public hearing open. So we'll keep the public hearing open on this, at least until the next meeting on May 18th. So Mr. Olenowski, we're not going to act on the application tonight. So for all intent and purposes, we are done with your application this evening. We'll be revisiting that again on the 18th. Okay, I don't want to hold you up if you have other things going on.
No problem. Thank you.
It's too cold out to go water skiing, but who knows?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7B, Carmen Villado, special permit application for a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 201 Andrew Street in an R80 zone, parcel size 4.39 acres, SPU 649. Is the applicant here this evening? Rob, did you hear anything that the applicant wasn't going to be?
I see the name in the participant list. I've sent the request unmute, *6 to unmute yourself. It's the best I can do.
Mr. Chair, this is Steve Judas at Harry Cole and Son.
Yep, Steve, go ahead.
I'm going to do my best here. Excuse me, give me 1 second. This I saw Carmen's name on. I'm not sure what happened or if he logged off or what, but I think Carmen, Mr. Valtino has a large piece of property, and he's proposing, he has an existing garage. I think he's proposing to add to that garage. I'm just pulling up the plot plan right now real quick. It's a does the commission have the plot plan in front of you?
Yeah, you're sharing it. It was shared prior to tonight's meeting as well.
Okay, so Rob must be sharing it. So this was a survey that we'd done a few years back, and it looks like Mr. Valtino just added the garage space to the plan himself, and then showed his pool house being relocated. Small little changes to the plan. So I think just because the number of bays he has, he was required to come before this commission for a special permit. The garage itself is, reasonably sized. I think it's a 1-car garage now. It looks like he's proposing to add another bay to that garage.
Okay.
And I see Carmen's on there. I just don't know if he can unmute himself, if he's aware of how to do that.
Rob, there's no way for us to be able to do that for them, correct?
No, I used to be able to do that before WebEx apparently became new and improved, and now it doesn't allow me to do that.
Those are both
privacy
subjective
reasons for the
terms.
participants, apparently.
I guess, if you looked at the plan, it's a very, very large piece of property. The proposed addition of the garage space is really small compared to the size of the piece. I don't think it'll have any adverse impacts, any abutting properties or anything like that.
Okay, Steve,
any other questions? I'll do my best to answer.
Okay, I was going to ask if you're prepared to answer any questions that might be from the commission members. So why don't we start with Commissioner Gork again? Any questions on this?
Commissioner Gork. Steve, do you know if he's moving the 115 square foot existing wine cellar to the 190 proposed one, or is it going to have 2 wine cellars there?
I really don't know about the wine cellar. I can tell you there's really good wine in that wine cellar, but I don't really know the answer to that question.
No, just looking at the map, I saw that and I was interested in that wine cellar he's got going on there. Other than that, no, like you said, it's a very large property, and it doesn't look like it's that big of an addition he's putting on, and it's not going to be for commercial use, it looks like. So
absolutely not. Yeah.
So that's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Volpe.
Commissioner Volpe here. Similarly, this is a gorgeous property. Steve's absolutely correct. There seems to be plenty of room. The rendering seems to fit in with the design that I'm looking at. Another gorgeous swimming pool. I don't know where I'm going wrong, but that's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Albanese.
Commissioner Albanese, the only question I have is, I guess, and Steve could answer this, if there are any wetlands or upland review areas within the area of the proposed addition.
No, this is a high and dry, mostly grass piece of property.
Thank you. Then I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Commissioner Woloski.
Everything seems to be in proportion and to scale. I'm fine with everything.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Coles.
It's Commissioner Coles here. I have no questions.
Okay. Commissioner Locks.
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Commissioner Santago.
Good, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Commissioner Salka.
Just one question to the applicant. The garage is going to, the new addition is going to go to the right of the existing garage. Are they going to have to add anything to the driveway? It looks like the driveway will handle it, but I just want to make sure.
I just think maybe just in there's probably a foot of pavement that might have to be added to make the transition from the existing driveway to the new garage. But for the most part, I'd say no additional pavement.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Bob. Open it up to members of the public if there's
Mr.
any.
Chair, before we
Jeff,
get there,
go ahead.
Commissioner Gork, Could you basically we got a letter of inquiry from I believe a neighbor. He was just making sure what the use. I guess he doesn't want any machining, tool shops, nothing like that. You said it's not commercial use, but I just wanted to make sure. Is it just for storage of another vehicle, or do you know what the use of the garage is going to be?
I believe it's storage another vehicle. Mr. Voltino owns a very large machine shop off of Captain Lewis Drive, 50,000 square feet. He wouldn't be doing any type of machining in here.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want to. I just wanted to make sure that these questions were covered by this. I don't know if it's a neighbor or who he is,
Yeah.
but I just saw the letter in our package. So that was it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that out, Jeff. Any members of the public who'd like to speak in favor of this application, again, identify yourself with your address so we get it on the record. You need to unmute yourself, reminder. Hearing none, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Again, hearing none. Steve, anything you want to add before we move on?
No, just thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
Pretty
today.
straightforward. Any reason to keep this open? I don't personally see any, but any member of the commission see any reason to keep this open? Okay, we'll close the public hearing on item 7B. Item 7C, proposed zone text amendment to amend sections 2S and 11.24 of the zoning regulations. This deals with residential solar arrays. Zone amendment 607. This was continued from our last meeting. Rob Phillips, I think that you're going to talk about this.
Yes. Just a quick summary again. This is an initiative that was kind of on the long list of regulations to look at as far as the continuous improvement type of initiatives. And this kind of came to the forefront because I had a inquiry from a local business owner representing a local resident trying to get a ground-mounted solar area accessory use in a residential setting. And we really don't have a mechanism for this. We have treated them generally as accessory structures when it works, but this was a little bit of a larger size than what we've done in the past, and it's just not a perfect process. And the thought was we really need to have something in place if we're going to allow accessory ground-mounted solar arrays for residential uses. So essentially, I agreed to kind of put forth a proposal. The language is based upon the Capital Region Council of Governments sustainable model regulations. There's a section for solar accessory uses. So it's loosely based on that, or I should say largely based on that. There were some suggestions by the local business owner with respect to their specific application they are looking for. And those changes were incorporated into that language, and that's what you see before you. The commission in the last meeting asked if there were any other municipalities that had existing regulations in place. I did perform a kind of an inquiry out to my colleagues, and the only response I got was from Ellington, which coincidentally is where I came from, but this regulation came on the books after I had left. I was there when we put in small wind energy systems over a decade ago. But so that existing language has been provided to you. It's also up on the website for review. And the business owner also supplied two other communities that I wasn't aware of. I think it was either Westbrook or Westport, Westbrook, I believe, and then Stafford in Connecticut. They have regulations. And there are other towns that do have a mechanism basically to allow for these, but they're treated only as a accessory structure subject to a building permit. So they basically have a checkbox on their building permits for this use. So that's how they handle that. So that's even more progressive, I guess, is one way to put it. So so I provided all that language, and at this point in time, again, my recommendation is I propose a special use permit approval level. My professional opinion should be a zoning permit level for an accessory use such as this, but I wanted to start at a higher test, so to speak, so that if you do decide to move away from special permit to zoning permit, that's something that doesn't complicate this proposal. But if you're moving in the other direction, making it more restrictive in a sense, it can be problematic from a legal standpoint, for notice to folks and whatnot. So that's kind of a summary of where we are. Certainly I recommend the commission, allow the business owner to speak and share anything. I think he may be providing a photo of an installation that he's done, just to kind of get an idea of what it looks like and the look and feel. Obviously, photos speak 1,000 words. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Rob. Is Rich Evergreen on this call?
Yeah, Rich Folk from Evergreen.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just read the email. So Rich, could you just identify yourself and give us your address? I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about the email exchanges that you and Rob had going back and forth.
Sure. So it's Rich Folk, Evergreen Energy, 373 Wedgwood Road in Southington.
Okay.
And
Rich, go ahead.
I mean, Rob pretty much summarized, the mechanism right now. If you want to put in a ground-mounted solar array that's greater than 300 square feet, you go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they can decide based on, whatever their opinions are at that point in time. But it's not really an equitable system for the people who live in town. I gave Rob the regulations for its Stafford and Westport. I'm sure I could find other regulations if they're needed, but that's 3 towns that all have solar regulations in effect for ground-mounted arrays, and their limitations are pretty minimal. One of them limits it to 16 feet in height. They pretty much do square footage similar to what Southington's proposing, which is 50% of the square foot of the footprint of the building or the house that's on the site. And most of them actually ask for screening of some sort or another. Although I think Stratford actually called for screening on large arrays, which are greater than 100 kilowatts. I'm not sure why residents need 100 kilowatts, but that's a different issue. And I can share a photo if I can figure out how to share this screen. Which I don't know anything about WebEx.
You might be able to see it. It's either a drop-down menu at the top or it's at the bottom. I saw you sent it to me, and I would share it, but I can't access that without sending to my personal email, and it wouldn't go through because of the file size.
Okay. Let's see. I've got switch audio, connect to a video system, copy a meeting link. That doesn't help. More panels, Q&A.
So Rich, while you're trying to work through those technical things, I'm just going to note, and I know Commissioner Volpe is our representative liaison over to CROG, that we did receive correspondence both from CROG and from NV, what's it, NV COG?
Yeah, Naugatuck Valley.
Naugatuck Valley CROG, that they've looked at this and they're both, they essentially don't have a problem with this proposal. So I just want to put that on the record. You figured it out, Rich, or?
At the bottom of your screen, it may have a little icon that says share. You might be able to share your documents there.
No, all I got on the bottom is mute, stop video, reactions.
Right. There's nothing right next to it that says share.
There is a share button, but it's not, it's gray.
Oh.
And when I scroll over, it says open system preferences.
Yeah, you may have to open your system preferences and just change them real quick so that you can share the screen. You have to allow your computer.
Yeah.
Right.
And it might kick it out, but
yeah, I can confirm that when I set these meetings up, I did allow anyone to share content. So
yeah, it's your computer. I don't know if you're also using a Mac, but that's what I have, and that's often what I have to do.
Yeah, I'm using a Mac.
Oh, I can't help you.
That's why I'm the resident millennial. That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Mr. V, if you wanted to just update your settings, sorry, Mr. Chair, you will be kicked out of the meeting after we restart, but you'll be able to come back in and we can possibly, with the approval of our wonderful chair, reorder it, because I would love to see this image and discuss more with that image, because I'm a pictures person.
well,
Yep.
let's see if there's any questions from members of the commission. And I'll mix it up. We'll start with you, Christina. Other than the pictures and the fact that you use a Mac, what do we got? Anything?
Commissioner Volpe here. Yeah, I did notice that in the proposed regulations that you sent us, Rob, versus some of the other examples that we were given, there isn't anything that necessarily says a roof, ground mounted versus roof mounted. Is that correct? Are we just kind of lumping it together for ours?
Yeah, so we're just looking at ground mounted because we do already allow roof mounted as a projection in the regulations. It's something that we've already been doing for quite some time. That's not an issue. It's the ground mounted installations that are different.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there's so ground mounted solar arrays are considered non-temporary, or they're considered temporary structures. Is that correct? They're not permanent structures. They can be removed at any time without any significant damage to the ground. Is that correct? Bueller?
I muted myself by accident.
Oh.
I thought I was muted. Anyways, no, it's similar to a shed. I mean, you can remove a shed very easily. You can remove, a playscape pretty easily. The only thing you really can't remove is things with a foundation very easily. So I wouldn't consider these any different than a shed or any similar structure that literally takes up space on the ground. Might have a couple of columns or something like that, or footings or whatever. But I would consider it very similar to that.
So, Commissioner Volpe here again. My concern with some of this is the in certain. Oh, there we go.
This is
Okay,
high level. This is high level technology going on right here.
Yeah, we're bringing
using
it
my
back.
cell phone.
So that is a 48 panel system I installed in Mansfield Center about 2 years ago.
It looks a little bit like the ones they have out behind Hatton School.
A little bit.
How tall are those, Rich?
10 to 12 feet.
Maximum in the back end there?
Usually, I mean, they can be higher than that. It depends on the configuration. So that particular array is 4 panels high by 12 wide. So it's long, but it's not that tall. It's probably only 10 feet tall. If you put more panels on and shrink the width, the height goes up a little bit.
Okay. Commissioner Volpe, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead. You still have the floor.
Oh, no worries. Commissioner Volpe here again. I think that was useful. And thank you, Rob, for holding up your phone.
I'm starting to hurt.
I'm sure your arm is feeling the burn. But yeah, there you go. So I think that's it for now. My only concern is some of this conversation that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks about views, right? And our vistas in town. I do like that there is support within the regulation about still maintaining that use of the solar array while maybe providing some sort of buffer around it. That would be my only concern. But other than that, I think this is well done. And I really appreciate that we have examples of other towns and that this came together like this. So I don't have anything else right now, but I might circle back. You never know.
Okay. Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Gwark?
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Gork. Why did we decide in the text revisions that we got, or the text amendment, 5 feet from all property lines instead of the usual 10 feet? What's the thought process there? I don't know if anybody, whoever wants to help me, could answer that.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at it right now.
Yeah, it's number 3.
Yeah, you know what? That language was directly straight out of the California Council of Governments model regulations. So it's just a number that was there. It can be changed to 10, just like we do with all other accessory structures.
Okay, and then my other one was just the number 7, solar arrays may be required to be screened. is that going to be on a per case basis, or is it going to be, I'd like them all to be some kind of screened, because in the dead of winter, depending on what kind of vegetation you have, a lot of neighbors might not want to be looking at all those solar panels, but I just didn't know if it was on a per case basis, or just something where it's going to be in the regulation and it'll be approved and nobody has any say. So that's my
Yeah,
only
I
other.
think under the special permit criteria, if you stay with that, then you certainly have the ability to require it on a case by case basis, because that's exactly what a special permit is for.
Okay.
But having said that, if you do decide to lower it to the zoning permit threshold, then I think we would want to change that language, because we don't want it subjective to it becomes more problematic to be subjective. So I would rather see something where there's a requirement of screening of some sort, or not.
Okay. Yeah. Other than that, I think it's great to have these in here and get that squared away so more people could get involved in alternative energy. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Albanese?
Albanese, thank you. Yes, I like this. This is really good. Obviously a move forward and, into the future, of course. I do have a question for Mr. Vokey. Did I say that right? Vokey? Is that pronounced right? Vokey?
It's Vogue.
Vogue, I'm sorry. Is this going to be a tilt or a fixed? Are these fixed, or they can tilt?
They're generally
they're
fixed.
Fixed, okay. And then they're all going to have their own footings, right? Correct?
Footings or anchors.
Anchors,
So
okay.
the system that I'm hoping to put in my own neighborhood actually has screw-in anchors that get screwed into the earth down 4 or 5 feet.
Okay. Okay, that makes some sense as well. I then, as far as the utility, the connection, there's going to be utility excavation for going to the house, right? So there's going to be how many for each row, or for just the one row? There's going to be one cable.
Just one conduit from the array to the house.
Right. And I guess have you seen any issues with any erosion with any of these? I mean, obviously, what about snow melt and things like that during the winter?
Snow generally melts off them on its own. It's usually about a 35-degree pitch.
Okay.
So snow melts off pretty rapidly. The panels are usually black in color, so they absorb the sun's heat. And once they start to shed, they pretty much shed all in one big shot. And I haven't had any erosion issues at all. They're almost always installed in grass yards, lawns.
Okay, great, thank you. And I guess just to some of the same inquiries I had, Commissioner Volpe and Commissioner Wark had asked previously, but I did have some requests, some information. I needed some information on the glare. Is there any glare issues with the arrays?
Less than a glare from a window.
Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't quite aware of that. I know I've seen some huge systems where the glare, they do actual glare studies for some of the bigger solar fields, because there's so much glare coming out of the, from the whole continuity of the system. Okay, that's the only question, the other questions I had for you, Mr. Vogt. But I did want to ask Mr. Phillips, is there a way that we can make this text more robust? It seems like there's just, it seems just very basic to me, but I guess because it's going to get handled through the SBU, that it wouldn't, and it's case by case, we don't have to worry about it. Like some of the issues related to, it just seems to me like it's just general. Like I know we talked about previously, and another commissioner mentioned moving it 10 feet away, but from the side setback. But can we get more specific in the actual text change or not? And I guess that's a question for Rob.
Well, since it came from the commission, you do have some ability to modify it. The reason why it appears somewhat basic is that obviously it was a standardized type of model code recommendation, but it was also an attempt to try and be progressive with green energy. And I think the goal was not to be too thick with language for what would be considered an accessory type of structure, similar to a shed on a residential property only. And again, it's proposed for R80, R40, R2025, and R12 zones. So I think that's the main thought process behind that. And again, some towns treat it literally as a check off on the building permit. And obviously the towns that were supplied as evidence have sections as well, and those sections aren't very long either. So, having said all that, you're the commission, it's your regulation. Certainly you can, pick and choose exactly how you'd want it to be written, or what to do with it ultimately anyway. So.
Right. Do we have any of these already approved that went through like a zoning permit? Are there any that we have already in town in place?
Yeah, I think there was a couple. I'd have to reach out with the assistant planner because I think he was here. I don't recall it ever being done in the last several years that I've been here, but I could be wrong. But I'd have to reach out to him to see if he can dig up those locations and share that.
Okay, great. That'd be great. Thank you. I have no other questions. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. Commissioner Wolowski?
I think everyone has asked a question that I might have considered. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Commissioner Coles?
Hi, Commissioner Coles here. Here's a question. Why on the lawn and not on the roof?
Is that question, who's that question directed to? I think,
Applicant, Rich.
Well, I mean, I'll just quickly some applications, I think you get greater, in a lot of cases, a greater output from a ground mounted array. Maybe there's no room on the roof, the type of roof, the geometry of the roof, the angle of the house. It may not be facing in a solar, a good solar aspect. But that's just me just throwing it out there. I'll leave the expert answer to.
So in the particular case that I'm interested at the moment, the house has a hip roof, so there's not really enough space to put an array on the roof. You could fit a maximum of about 12 panels on a roof, and at that size, I could have done less than 300 square feet and gone through the zoning board months ago and gotten a permit, and it would have been up by now. In some cases, like Rob said, you don't have a good southern exposure. You need a roof facing south that goes between east and west. North roofs really don't do any good, even though there are companies out there that will put solar on a north-facing roof. I'm not sure why. I think it's more of an advertisement than an actual renewable energy system.
Thank you. And then my other question is, if we're looking at writing this up, is there flexibility on the types of residential zones that this could be permitted in? Could we limit it to larger spaces where structure built off the house wouldn't be permitted if it doesn't, for instance, in a smaller neighborhood, as opposed to a property with quite a bit of land around it?
It was a question to me.
I mean, I guess we're just kind of talking here. It's a question to the group, to the commission itself, and through you, I guess.
It's about size and versus the size of the lot.
Yeah. So if we're putting this into a small lot, an array of some substantial size would be much more obtrusive to the character of a neighborhood than it would be affected in a larger parcel. So you kind of see, I want to, am I making my point? Am I kind of coming across? I just don't want to see this in a very tight neighborhood, and then these ground-based array, which, listen, I'm completely in support of the use of solar, but when we ask a lot of these applications, how is the structure of your shed or your garage going to match your building? You can match a garage or you can match a shed. You can't match a solar array, and so we lose that connectivity with our neighborhood. connectivity. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. The larger the land, the more I feel comfortable with this kind of an application.
Well, I think as you move from larger lots to smaller lots, it's going to be a little more self-limiting. You do have setbacks, you do have building coverage, which I think this would apply to, because we apply anything with a roof under building coverage calculations. So, yeah, I think you'd be limited at how much solar panels you could place on a smaller lot to begin with. But you know, I don't know if I've ever seen a ratio type of situation, which would be more in line with maybe what your line of questioning is, as far as, you know, you can only have, I don't know, I was throwing it out there, 20% of the lot can be covered by a solar panel. And then of course that would obviously increase the bigger the lot is, but I haven't seen that. I don't know if Rich has or anything like that, but you know, we do have limits on shed sizes. So, I mean, although I don't necessarily agree with those, my professional opinion, but I don't know. I don't know if Rich has any comments on that.
I haven't seen anything like that, other than the existing regulations that I provided on this, you know, particular subject, where they limit the amount of solar based on the footprint of the building. So the bigger the building, the more solar you can install. The smaller the building, the less you can install. And that seems to be a reasonable way to go, because it's going to be self-limiting. If you only have 1,000 square foot building, you can only put in 500 square feet of solar. That's your cap.
No, Rich, you can't. A homeowner doesn't have the ability to, for lack of better terms, make money any longer, right? As far as their solar ability, there was a time I thought there was something out there, but you can't make money. You can't build a massive solar array and make money off the grid.
No, it doesn't pay. The utility will only pay you the cost avoidance rate for excess power that you generate in any given year, which is roughly 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour, which is nothing close to the 20 cents a kilowatt hour that most of us pay for electricity. So no one's going to install solar to make money as a business. Doesn't pay.
So Caleb, let me just sort of think. I think I you know what Rob just mentioned is that under the section 11.24 number 4 there, it talks about that it cannot exceed a certain limit based on the primary structure on the property. So if you're looking at an R12 and R25 2025 zone, which are the smaller lot sizes, like I live in, I think you live in as well, that you'd be restricted based on the size of your house on how big the structure can be. So it says it's 600, I think it's 600 square feet, right? Or 1/2 of the footprint of the principal structure, whichever is greater. So 600 square feet, imagine, is a 10 by 6 structure, which is not that big. So I think on some level anyways, that gets to what your concern is.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to air out the thought so that we could, you know, at least discuss it. I think that addresses my concern. You know, my fear is that, you know, we have a hip roof or like a, you know, a bungalow or something like that where this wouldn't necessarily work. And there's, you know, it's a pretty small lot size, and then, you know, we have a driveway, but the building is big enough when the rest of the yard is pretty much covered by array. So I think I've expressed my concerns appropriately.
And I think, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be subject to a public or a special permit. Isn't that the way it's structured?
The way it's structured right now, yes.
Which would allow us to talk about buffers and that type of stuff given on a case-by-case basis, correct?
Correct. It gives you the ultimate discretion.
Right. So any application would have to come back here.
The way it's written, yes.
And under section 8, which is our special permit section, Caleb, there is the talk about being consistent with the character of the neighborhood. So you raise that term up and it is covered under that section. Although not to get too far off the path, there is legislation out there to eliminate such wording.
Further
Talk to
complicated.
legislators. Yeah, I won't go off on that one, but okay, you all set, Caleb?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Locke, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Volkey, was just wondering, as far as screening, is there any type of screening that you cannot use with these panels?
The only
Like,
thing
is
you
it
could,
all trees and bushes and what have you, or
the
is
only thing
fencing okay?
fencing can work. You just have to be cautious about anything that shades the panels. So if you put trees in and they grow to be 25 feet tall, it might be a problem.
Okay.
So usually you're looking at smaller, shrubs or arborvitaes or evergreens that, only grow to 6 or 12 feet in height.
Okay. All right. No other questions. Thank you.
A good question, Sue. Thank you. Commissioner Santiago.
Thank you. Commissioner Gork had my question, so I'd be in favor of moving the 5 feet to 10 feet to be consistent. I think what's presented is presented well and simplified manner, so I give Rob credit for that. I think Caleb made some excellent points, and I'm with him on the integrity of a neighborhood, but I think by virtue of it being in special permit, would indeed give us the discretion regardless. And so I think as opposed to adding the language to regulations, because a lot of times when you add language to regulations, you overly complicate things and make it harder. But I think by putting it in special permit as is would give us more discretion to approve or deny based upon individual basis. So I think Kayla's points are right on the money, but I think the special permit would take care of that as I heard the conversation. But I'm with you, Caleb, in regards to this. Mr. Volk, did I say it right? When you just and thank you, Sue, for that question about it won't work. When you say trees, you'd be in trouble, do you mean you're not going to get as much solar, or you're in trouble from a safety or other type thing?
You're not going to get as much energy out of the solar.
So the resident would not get as much. So that's a word to the wise for the resident, but not necessarily something we would want to put into a regulation.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Peter. Commissioner Peter?
Nope, just
Okay.
a good job, Rob.
Okay, Commissioner Salka?
I just have one question. First of all, I want to compliment Rob on the application or the verbiage that he put into this regulation. And I do agree that we should look at that 5 feet to 10, move it to 10 feet. But my primary question is, Mr. Volk mentioned about the anchoring of the solar array. With the way the environment's been changing and all of the kinds of problems we've had, is an anchor of 5 feet, when you anchor that, is that adequate enough in the case of a major hurricane versus a cement anchor that you initially referred to? You said sometimes they're anchored with cement footings, other times you're putting in a 5-foot anchor into the ground. In a hurricane, would that anchor hold adequately enough so they're not blowing around the neighborhood? That's really my question.
So I could answer that. On anchors, they're basically rated for 120 mile an hour direct wind. So to me, that's most hurricanes that would hit a neighborhood in Southington. And it's the same rating for concrete anchors, which are generally sonotubes between 12 and 24 inches in diameter going down 4 feet.
Okay, so whether you use a bolt anchor or a cement anchor, the net result is still the 125 mile an hour wind.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Good question. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in favor of this application? Proposed zone text change.
Yes, I would like to speak in favor of it.
Okay.
My name is John Spoonhour.
Okay,
Sure.
go
My
ahead,
name
John.
is John Spoonhour. I live at 321 Hobart Street. I've lived in Southington with my family since 1996. Shortly since we moved across town in 2014, we installed a 40-panel system on our roof. And since then, 3 neighbors have actually installed solar systems on their roofs as well. I have no intention of adding a ground array, but I wanted to speak to the commission tonight just in favor of advocating for solar energy in general, and also more specifically for a consistent set of guidelines that homeowners like myself can use that are reasonable and supportive of additional solar use, and specifically ground arrays if that's an area that is more conducive for the homeowner than a roof array than my was, which was fantastic. My installation went very well. It's a fantastic system. I love it. But it's quite a process and quite an education. And I would just urge the commission to consider, from the homeowner's perspective, making the process easy and understandable and consistent across the board. Based on the changes that I saw, I see no reason to restrict additional solar use in town. I just want it to be an easy process for homeowners that are considering this sort of transformational way to power their house, and also with the consideration of their neighbors in a consistent manner.
Thanks, John. Any questions for members of the commission? I think John.
Sorry, Commissioner Albanese.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just have a quick question for Mr. Vogt. I'm just curious, being in the industry, how does this has nothing to do with any of the Tesla solar roofs, right, that are going in? Some people that have Tesla solar roofs, there are no Tesla, are there Tesla mounted systems as well?
I mean, Tesla does manufacture solar panels.
Right.
Which can be mounted on a roof or on a ground array.
Okay.
But apparently they're hard to get.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, I was just curious based on the industry and what I've heard. And I guess my last question is, and this has to do with the way that we, revise and amend the text. If there are, say there is a property owner who wants to put a mounted system up, and their neighbors have a significant amount of tall trees, they might have an issue with trying to find the right angle or the right alignment in order for them to be able to get the right amount of energy that they need from the panels. So I guess that, that's not something for us to be concerned with, but I mean, I don't know if there's a possibility that maybe a property owner could approach another property owner and say, hey, I want to put this here, and I wonder if I can cut some of your trees down. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I could see that there being some restrictions and restricted lot sizes, of course. That's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Right.
So.
And that's
just a comment.
Yeah. You want to have good neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'm done. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thanks, Teresa. John, are you all set?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us as well. I appreciate it. Any other members of the public any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this proposed zone text amendment? Seeing none, Rob or any member of the commission, is there a reason to keep this public hearing open, or do you think we're all set? Any objection? Let me phrase it this way. Any objection to closing it? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on. We'll close the public hearing on that item. Item 7D, proposed zone text amendment to repeal section 6.5 and replace with new section 6.5 of zoning regulations to be in line with current national flood insurance program regulations, zone amendment 609. This seems to be quite a technical one, and therefore I will hand it over to our technical staff to explain what this proposal does and why it's before us. Rob?
Yeah, Rob Phillips, Director of Planning. The building codes have changed. This kind of dates back a little bit, maybe a little over a year ago. This has been kind of on the back burner, mostly because it's something that people have to comply with, regardless of what our local regulations are, because building codes change. FEMA is aligned with that, and no matter what, you would have to comply with those requirements. Their recommendation is to update our local regulations so that they're in line with those changes, and it has to do with elevations above floodplain for I believe residential structures, and the objective here is to bring it into line with those so that we're very clear. And if anybody's reading our local regulations, it's obvious, because not many people are going to be looking at building codes and FEMA regulations. They're going to be looking at our zoning regulations. So basically, this is just a repeal of the existing section and a replacement in kind with all of the updates that have been suggested by FEMA to update our local requirements. Having said that, Jim Grappone, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, or if you know any more of the background details as far as what the changes were, or why, or anything you might want to add.
No, I believe it came up around the time, I believe the address is 62 Echo Lake, I think is the name of the street, where a floodplain building application was before wetlands and before the planning commission. So we were basically brought to our attention that the regs have changed. And as Mr. Phillips indicated, we just want to make them in sync now with current regulations.
So in that sense, it's again, as the chair had stated, it's a very technical change. It really doesn't have really any bearing on anything you do, because it's required anyway by FEMA and building codes.
So if I can attempt to surmise, it brings us in conformity with the FEMA regulations in terms of our building code. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Rather than go through each individual commission member, if there's any commission member who'd like to speak about this or ask a question, please do so. Just speak up. Go ahead. Nobody? Hearing none, I'll just note again that we did receive correspondence from CROG and Naugatuck Valley with regards to this application. Both found no problem with it. And are there any members of the public who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to this proposed zone text amendment? Seeing none, is there any reason to keep this public hearing open on this? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing on this. Moving on to item 7E. Rather than read it, because there's going to be a continuance and the reading of it is rather long, I know that Attorney Maccarello is with us, and Brian, I don't know if you want to make a comment or if you just want to open it up to members of the public.
I think he may have left the meeting.
Okay. Well, let's open it up to members of the public. If there's any member of the public who'd like to speak in favor or opposition to this application, again, this public hearing is going to be continued at least until the next meeting date on May 18th. But if you're here and you want to give us some thoughts that you want to share with us, we're happy to entertain that right now. So again, just identify yourself and give us your address so we have it for the record, please. You need to make sure you unmute yourself.
Again, I still have one call-in user. I'm not sure, so I just sent a request to unmute. Again, *6.
It looks that Sandra Anderson.
Yes, Jim Anderson, 246 Landing Street. And I'd like to thank the commission for taking due diligence and listening to our concerns, those people that are in this area. And it's my opinion that perhaps we should stay with the R80 zoning regulations, because the concern is that we have a situation where they say that there's going to be a footpath out to Hawks Landing. That's not going to be too desirable for people that are 55 and older to be maybe strolling out there on an active green. And secondly, if they are looking for some place to walk, I would not suggest Landing Street. I myself walk Landing Street quite often, and it's a dangerous road. It's a dangerous road. And quite often when I walk Landing Street, especially from the bottom of Landing Street up to the top of the hill and beyond a bit, quite often I find myself having to jump the curb to avoid the traffic coming. Secondly, I do question the validity of the state person who went out and did a survey on Landing Street itself. He claims that the traffic can support this particular project in question. It is a dangerous road, and it does take quite a bit of traffic. And then especially when you get down to the bottom and you go on to the bottom and you try to exit onto Queen Street. One of the commissioners in the previous meeting, she spoke of this, how she could not take a left because she had to take a right and then go up the street and then swing around and come back down. Going south was the only way she could get onto Queen Street. Another item is I wonder myself, we can't tell what kind of evaluation this project is going to bring to our area, to our neighborhood. But I would suggest that if we have this type of building in this area, it's certainly not something that a real estate agent in the near future would be pointing out as an asset to the neighborhood. Certainly, it's not an asset to the people on Dorval Lane. There's some beautiful homes down there, and they're building properties might very well. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but my own feeling is that we're not going to go up in value because of it. I suspect we might even go down.
And if our property values go down.
Sandra, can you just identify yourself?
Sandra Anderson, 246 Lanning Street.
Thank you. Thanks.
If our property values do go down and the tax rate, would that go down too on our property? If our property ends up being assessed for less, I'm assuming that would be true, which would bring less money to the town from the local residents surrounding the proposed area.
Okay. The applicant is not here tonight. They asked for a continuance, so we're just here to take comment.
And I'm also concerned about the construction, and I read the letters from the police chief and the fire chief that they would prefer to have 2 entrances to that area. And if that changes the proposal, where would the other entrance to those housing units be? That's a question for Macarello, I guess. And also, are these units going to be all 1-story buildings? It appears on the design that there's a stairway. I'm assuming that goes to a basement. Will there be basements in these units? And is there going to be an HOA maintaining the roads in this proposed area? Or will the town maintain these roads to the area? Would the buildings be all 1- or 2-story buildings? I noticed in somewhere there, the HOD says no more than 3 stories high. Is there a possibility that these buildings would be more than 1 story high? I know that as people get older and they downsize, they don't want anything building a home where they have to climb stairs. They want 1-level living.
Okay, Sandra, I've made notes of your questions, and at our next hearing on the 18th, I will make sure that we bring those out for the applicant to respond to.
Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
If these are units for people over 55, will children be allowed to live in them?
The way I read the regulation is that it's no one over the age of 18 would be allowed. But again, I'll ask the applicant to respond to your questions when they're back here in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Yep.
I think you all were here before. I think you were sitting on the opposite side of each other, but if my memory serves me correctly. And I see that.
Remember where we were last week.
Yeah, I see that Commissioner Santiago has a question, but before I go to Peter, I just want to take a point of personal privilege, I guess, and announce that I just learned that the referendum passed by a vote of roughly 2388 to 702. So that's hot off the presses. Peter, can you go ahead? What do you got?
It's about 3-to-1 pass ratio. It's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Chair. So, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, again, thank you for coming again. Just a couple things. So this type of application, an 830G, is a little different than other applications that come before us because it's a state statute. And so with this state statute, we can only consider health and safety when rendering a decision. So in light of that, because you live on Lanning Street, and a lot of times we talk about Lanning Street in dry weather, could you kind of describe for us your experience living there in the winter when it snows or when it rains in regards to traffic getting up and down the hill and what you observe there?
Let me answer that because I had a personal experience in regards to that. Previous to this experience I'm going to talk about, there was a fella that came on his wife had driven down Lanning Street and she went into this is a snowstorm and she went off the road and he came to give her assistance and lo and behold, someone came down the road and hit this person and he died. But after that, I was out in the yard shoveling snow and I heard a crash and lo and behold, a truck came up the road and sideswiped a lady in a smaller vehicle and he went into the pine tree across the street and she was in the road itself and she was obviously delirious because she crawled out of the vehicle, a small vehicle, fell on Lanning Street and I went out on the road there and I made sure that no traffic came up the road to hit her. And luckily, there was a woman behind her who got out of her car, and she made sure the traffic from the top of Lanning Street didn't come down and hit this woman. We contacted the police and the emergency vehicles, and lo and behold, they came, and they had to transport this woman to New Britain, where she was life-starved up to Hartford Hospital, where she did indeed survive. But it was a scary moment for all of us, my wife and myself, sitting out there and watching this woman crawl out of her car and drop on Lanning Street because she was delirious. She had no idea where she was doing. And luckily we were there to kind of to make sure no one came up the street at the point when she was lying in the street.
And you took out blankets for her too.
And we noticed that we've had a number of situations where the cars coming up Lanning Street are having a very difficult time, even in a light snow. In a heavy snow, it's impossible. But we know that the town department is trying to do a good job because when it starts to snow, I suspect it's one of the first places the trucks come because they know Lanning Street is a treacherous hill. And it's a situation, nobody wanted to be out in that weather. 55 plus, those people would be hunkered down for sure in their homes rather than going out on Lanning Street at that time, if that indeed was built at that proposed site.
Yeah, and cars often have trouble and get stuck going up the hill and they back down the hill if they can and turn around in either the church parking lot across the street or our driveway. And one time we had a woman and her daughter come to our house knocking at the door and we had them stay with us until somebody could come and give her a ride.
Thank you.
And vehicles going.
If you've been walking there, there's no sidewalk there, right? You have to, if you walk on the road, you have to get up on the side there because you often see people from the hotel who don't know try to walk down and or the apartments try to walk down as well, right?
Yep.
That's what I mentioned to Commissioner Santiago. The fact that when I walk on Lanning Street, quite often I have to jump the curb because if there's a car coming down and I'm going up, the car coming up hasn't got much room and I have to jump the curb in order to avoid a problem. And I've talked to a couple of my neighbors too, and I talked to one just the other day and I just happened to mention the proposal across the street. He's further up the road here. And he was certainly not in favor. In fact, there were two neighbors there. They were cutting a tree down. So I happened to talk to them and they definitely are not in favor of this. They didn't say anything, but they said, no, we don't really want that. They enjoyed the beautiful trees over there, the open. I know that the man who owns this property has a right to build, but it's my position that he should stick with the R80 category and not ask for variance. It's not a very good place for low-income housing or 55 plus. It's not the right kind of environment. People are not going to be able to go out because the golf course is not going to be someplace to walk. And certainly Landing Street is not a place to walk.
I refuse to walk on Landing Street anymore. The last time I did several months ago, I tried to go up to Durrell Lane. And you know, the traffic survey said, oh yeah, just a few cars. Well, between my house and Durrell Lane, there are about 4 cars. That's a short distance for 4 vehicles to be coming down. Sometimes on Saturdays, we get slews of motorcycles and cars zooming up the hill, making loud noise. It's not even 40 miles an hour. It's way beyond that at times.
I think the survey down on Landing Street to determine its feasibility for traffic was poorly done. I think it was done on a Wednesday and only once. And I don't think that's a true representative picture of the traffic pattern on Landing Street.
Yeah.
If someone who did the survey had gone and knocked on a few doors and said, what do you think about the traffic on the street? He would have gotten a different picture altogether. Plus the fact that there's no sidewalks up here really makes a difference. And I don't think the town's about ready to put sidewalks up here. So it's going to remain as it is, a dangerous road.
Okay. I'm supposed to go out walking, doctor's orders. I refuse to walk in this neighborhood, in this area. I can't do it.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming out, for answering my questions. We certainly do appreciate it and welcome your input. You were very informative, articulate, and very, very helpful. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Peter, for your question.
Hello?
Bob, you're on mute.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Sorry, is that better? There we go. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this application at this time?
Yes, Commissioner Hammersley, this is Mary Beth Dorio. I live at 34 Durrell Lane, Southington, Connecticut. I joined the last meeting on April 20th, and I respectfully say that I've done quite a bit of research, so in a very different position now. I still absolutely oppose the change in zoning and the proposed building. But I will tell you, I took the time, I did read the Town of Southington zoning regulation. That's a 200-page document, 200-page plus document. I did focus on the sections at question here, section 3.08-4, as well as 3.08-5, which is HOD, and then septic respectfully. So interestingly enough, this document went into effect on May 20th, 1957. And at least the one I looked at was amended through December 15th, 2020. Interestingly, that's 63 years plus that those sections haven't been changed. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. I do have a number of things that I would like to share based upon my analysis of the proposed changes. I did see that there's letters from some of my neighbors, or an additional letter that was posted from one of my neighbors, Ms. Karen Poole. One of the comments that she makes, I wholeheartedly agree. It's the second to the last paragraph where she talks about, you know, when a developer buys property, regardless of where it is, there's zonings in place. They understand those zonings. And, you know, I just want to make that comment. The developer knew that's an R80. They knew it was residential. So that said, there's, I believe Mr. Phillips brought up the fact that, and I'm just looking at my notes, so bear with me. And I'm sorry that my camera doesn't work. I'm going to try to get it to work for the next meeting because I think it makes a difference when you can see a person. You know, as far as health and safety, we purchased this home 2 years ago. We do have children in the Southington school systems as well as other neighbors that live here. My children go to DePalo and Southington High School respectfully, and they take the bus. I mean, it's been different over the past few months because of COVID. I'm not going, you know, we've had to make amends just like everyone else, where if you were in close contact of someone in the school system who had COVID, then you had to stay in quarantine. So it's been a difficult year having children, and regardless. But, you know, the school bus does stop at the end of Durrell Lane. I second what the Andersons are saying. I was born and raised and grew up in Southington. Landing Street is ferocious at times as it relates to people speeding. It's terrible to navigate, but more so I want to make the point about my children in the school bus. I, like other neighbors in this on Doral Lane, drive my children up to the corner. And I just, I tell them before they get out, be careful. The bus stops, but it stops right as you crack the hill there on Lanning Street. That looks like the entrance to where this proposed uh, development is in place. So it does concern me. Again, Lanning Street, I'm a walker and a runner, and I don't walk or run Lanning Street just because it's not, in my opinion, safe to do so. I do have a number of other items I do want to share. My preference is to hold them until May 18th, because I think it's more appropriate for me to talk to the applicant. And my only other question is, I know that the applicant requested to postpone for 2 weeks. Did you just what's the timing on that? Just want to be mindful of people that might want to join this meeting and prepare. And then, is it at the meeting that they can announce that? Is it within 24 hours that they announce it? Because, I've been pretty keen and monitoring the website as it relates to this whole proposal.
Yeah, I personally, I think that I heard about it sometime late yesterday or earlier today, if I'm remembering correctly. They can make a request of us at any point, and it's up to us on whether we want to honor that request. Given where this one is and the complexity of it, I thought that giving them the ability to continue it to gather some more information would lead to a more fruitful conversation on the 18th than it would have tonight.
Okay,
There were a number of items that
makes
we had
sense.
requested of them, if you might remember from the last meeting, and I think they're in the process of gathering some of that information and getting it prepared to present to us.
Yes, I did see that. I'm trying to diligently review all the documents. And I see that there is some responses that are outstanding. One, I think from Shane Lockwood, the Director of Health on the community septic. But again, I do have commentary as it relates to amending the zoning, specifically those sections 3.08-5 and 3.08-4. I mean, is it fair to say that if the other thing too, I thought of, and I think this was brought up at the last meeting, and this might take some research, but I do believe that someone did bring up the fact that, if you make a concession for this piece of real estate, then there might be others that will want a concession outside of this particular location. I'll say this, and I'll say this next time at the meeting. I sometimes I feel like it's not the town of Southington, it's becoming the city of Southington. I'm very happy to hear how the vote on the tonight ended. But that said, again, I think I have a lot of other things I would prefer to share when the applicant is present. But again, I oppose it, and thank you for letting me speak.
We appreciate you coming out and certainly appreciate that you prefer to have the applicant here when you're talking, and I assure you that that will occur on the 18th as well. I see that Commissioner Selka has his hand up, so I'm not sure if he has a question for you.
I don't have a question for Mary Beth, but I just have a question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
The applicant has asked for a postponement. Did he specifically say the next meeting? I would feel quite honestly more comfortable if we could put this off till the first meeting in June, when we could do face-to-face in a room where everyone can see each other and speak, versus trying to do it on a WebEx. Is that a possibility that we could actually postpone this until the first week in June, our first meeting in June, where we'll actually be at the municipal center, hopefully?
We do have timelines that are applied to this, so I'll let Rob respond to that question.
I think there's I'd have to do the math, but I'm 99% sure we've got enough time, given the 90-day additional time frame allowed by the governor's executive order, although it does expire on May 20th. So it gets there's some unknowns with this expiration and what impact it's going to be if everything just kind of curtains on May 20th and you're left with whatever, or because it came in before May 20th, you get those 90 days. Those things need to be answered, I think. But I think you would probably be, if I have to comment right now, I think we'd be okay by June 1st.
Well, I think too that the thing that I would be cautious about is that it might hit us on the other end. So it might just tighten up the ability of us to deliberate a little bit further on this, because that timeline will be looming a little bit closer come June 1 as opposed to May 18th. So for example, on the May 18th, if there's a question or something comes up that we ask them to look at and they don't have time to look at it, I mean, what happens at that point? And I'm not asking the question for it to be answered. I'm just saying that, it might bite us on the other end. So, but
Yeah, I tend
I
to.
see you, Christina. Just let us finish this one up. Go ahead, Rob.
I tend to agree with the chair. I think the easiest and cleanest thing to do is just continue to May 18th, and they're going to submit their phase 1 ESA by then. The public's going to be expecting to be able to participate again on that date anyway. I mean, I would err towards that side of it.
And along those lines, Bob Soka, I don't think that the 18th is going to be the end of this public hearing, frankly. I think that we're at least looking at going into June 1st. Does that answer your question in some level?
I guess. If it has to be the 18th, that's where we'll go. I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Volpe, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Volpe here. I was just going to say, like, I agree with Commissioner Selka. However, I would like to see us just maintain the timeline, just because me person, I'm not sure if we're still going to be wearing masks. And I'm of the mind where, like, at least in this setting, we get to see each other's faces. So I understand the train of thought, but it might even be more difficult in person to have all those people there wearing masks, trying to express themselves, right? And they may not be able to fully do that because we don't know how that's going to really look yet. So I may just suggest that we continue like we're talking about, just so at least next time we can get some of that expression from the public and, make that, like you're seeing me right now, instead of me with like my mask on. That's all I got.
Okay. Any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this application this evening? And Mary Beth, again, thank you for coming out. We appreciate your input, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on the 18th as well.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comment, we'll move on to the business section of the meeting. Item 8A, Sholomir Walchowski, special permit application for a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 301 East Street in an R2025 zone, parcel size 0.99 acres, SPU is 648. I think we have a table on this one because the public hearing is still open. Rob, do we need a motion on that or no?
No.
We can't do anything on it anyways. It's not ready for action, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Item, is this 7? Another 7? No, 8. Your numbering system, Rob, is off on the agenda. You got 2 8s.
Yeah, I'll tell Karen.
Yeah. 8B, Carmine Volano, special permit application for a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 201 Andrew Street in an R80 zone, parcel size 4.39 acres, SPU 649. Is there any member of the commission who'd like to speak on this or offer a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve SPU 649 with the stipulation that no commercial work will be done on the property.
Okay, okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Commissioner Locke, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Rob, you want to call the roll, please?
Warwick?
Commissioner Gork, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Wolowski,
Wolowski, yes.
Locke,
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Centego,
Centego, yes.
Salka,
Selka, yes.
Hammersley.
Hammersley is a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Item 8C, G and Z Properties LLC site plan application to construct a 5,000 square foot industrial building. Property owned by 300 Captain LLC located at 320 Captain Lewis Drive in an I-1 zone. Parcel size 0.72 acres, S1817. Steve Judas was in the house, and I think Steve is, there he is.
Here.
And so Steve, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, for the record, Steve Judas with Harry Cole & Son, offices located at 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. Here tonight on behalf of G&G Properties LLC. This parcel had been actually owned by the town at some point, and then it was purchased and subdivided in 2008. And what we're looking at is the front lot of the two parcels. This is approximately a 3/4 acre property located in I-1 zone. It's known as Lot 5A, and it's serviced by public water and sewer. The topography of this lot slopes from Captain Lewis down easterly. So there's a little bit of grade on the property. We're proposing an industrial building that will have 2 levels. The front of the building will be the upper level, and then the grade will slope down along the sides of the building, and the lower level will be on the back side of the building. I do have a couple renderings I could share if
Sure,
I
why
may.
don't you put those up, please?
Okay. Let's see if I can figure this out. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
So this identifies the lot. There's a parking area in the front with parking against the street. We have a decent sized grass area of street trees along the frontage. And then the building is going to be divided into separate bays that will be rented separately. There's an access drive that runs down the side of the building. And then another parking area in the back will be the lower level of the building. I have a preliminary building plan I can show you. I'm trying to get to right here. So this gives you a look of the front of the building. It's very similar to a building across the street. However, the one across the street I think is 8 or 9 bays, so a little bit bigger than this.
Can't see it, Steve.
You can't see it?
No.
All right, hang on a second. Let's see if I can get this. Can you see it now?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So the front of the building, it's very similar, as I mentioned, to a building across the street. It's just this is smaller than the one across the street. This would be the front of the building. The back of the building would be a 2-level elevation. And this kind of gives you an idea of the side of the building. You can see from the front is to the left, and then the rear of the building is the higher elevation on the back side. And that's just working with the grade and the topography of the lot. As I mentioned, the lot slopes from west to east. So the parcel is pretty straightforward. We're connecting to the sewers in Captain Lewis and the water. There's an easement that runs to the side of us. Storm drainage is picked up by a couple catch basins, and there's a detention basin located behind lot 5B that there's a storm system that we tie into as part of this plan. We're not proposing any outside storage here, and we did receive comments from staff and submitted responses to those comments as well. So I think overall we're in pretty good shape with this. If you have any additional questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thanks, Steve. Rob Phillips and Jim Grappone, you received responses to the comments that you asked, and are you satisfied with those?
Yes, planning is satisfied. Jim?
Yes, engineering reviewed the responses and we agree with them.
Okay. Are there any members of the commission who would like to ask a question of the applicant at this time? Peter?
So Steve, you'd be the applicant, you'd be marketing this to like small machine shop type thing?
Yes, small machine shops, small contractors, electricians, plumbers, things like that.
Things like that. So that's in keeping with the area, I'd say.
Yeah, the one across the street is full. There's another one on Lazy Lane that's full. So it's a very it's in demand, this use. So we're trying
No,
to.
absolutely right. I guess if I had a quibble with the surrounding trees and things like that, just to make the area look better, because the building itself is kind of nondescript. So if
It is, I think, it's almost identical to the one that was built across the street about 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah. So
We tried to mix it up with the colors, and bring the base color up with the concrete and things like that. So
yeah, because I'm thinking about some of the other parcels we have, the Power Drive and some of the other places that are kind of tucked in, and they're really, really well done in regards to, small industrial shops and things like that. And the area is very well maintained. So, I guess I'd ask to do more with less if you can in the green space to kind of make it presentable for the area.
Okay, we will do that.
But something like that. But in regards to having, it's always great to attract more industrial business to town. The town, certainly gets aided by things like that. So I think that's great. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Any other members of the commission have any questions or comments for the applicant? Seeing none, do we have a motion on this? Rob, this is ready for action, correct?
Correct. Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Salk will make a motion to approve S1817.
Okay, we have a motion for Commissioner Salka. Is there a second?
Second.
Who said that?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Wolowski second.
I have my head down, Steve, and I couldn't see, but thanks. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Gork,
Commissioner Gork, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Wolowski,
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Locks,
Commissioner Locks, yes.
Santiago,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Salka, yes.
Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Good luck. Item 8D.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Item 8D, Lovely Development, Inc., 6-lot subdivision application, property located at 300 Welsh Street in an R40 zone, parcel size 5.66 acres, S1327. This was tabled from April 20th. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Salka.
Mr. Chairman, in the public interest, is there any way that I'd like to see a motion or approve that we could table this till the first meeting in June, if that's possible?
We could do that, Bob. Do we want to move this to a public hearing?
Yes, I'd like to move it to a public hearing, really in the public interest, because we've had some feedback. And so I'd like it to open up the public hearing and move it till June, the first meeting in June.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Salka to move this item to a public hearing to be held on June 1st. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
Commissioner
second that.
Volpe, I'll second. Oh,
Either way, go ahead,
Okay,
Christina.
let's give it to Christina Volpe with a second. I'm moving this to a public hearing. Is there any further discussion on this? I think we could do this just by roll call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 8E, proposed zone text amendment to amend section 2S and 11.24 of the zoning regulations dealing with residential solar arrays, zone amendment 607. Is there a discussion on this? No discussion. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Salk, I'll make a motion to approve the ZA 607 as submitted with the stipulation that we make the change for the from 5 foot to 10 foot from any property line or other structure.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second Santiago.
Santiago with a second.
Get one
Is
in
there
there.
any, is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none. Rob, do we need a roll call on this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead, Rob. Call the roll.
Gorick,
Commissioner Gorick, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Wolowski,
Commissioner Wolowski, yes.
Locks,
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Santiago,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Salka, yes.
Hammersley.
Hammer says a yes. Motion
Can I just
passes.
interject one thing just for the record? This would be effective, this zone change would be effective on May 19th.
Okay, good date. Item 8F, proposed zone text amendment to repeal section 6.5 and replace with a new section 6.5 of the zoning regulations to be in line with current national flood insurance program regulation ZA 609. Do we have any discussion on this? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Salka, make a motion to approve ZA 609 as submitted.
Okay, motion second.
Commissioner Locke seconds.
Commissioner Locks with a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Yeah, and if this motion passes, this also would be effective May 19th, 2021.
Thank you.
Gorick,
Commissioner Gorick, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, yes. Sorry.
Wolowski,
Wolowski, yes.
Locks,
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Santiago,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Salka, yes.
and Hammersley.
Hammersley's yes, motion passes. Items 8G, H, and I are all tabled because the public hearing is still open, so there's no action to be taken on those. Under administrative items, Peter or Rob want to talk about the regs review subcommittee?
Peter, do you want to go ahead, or I know that we met. Well, Peter and I met after the last meeting, and we did discuss the sections 2 and 3, and I put together some post meeting work. I put that together. I did send it out to Peter. Hopefully you did receive that at the end of last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let you go ahead.
No, yeah, because earlier in our earlier meetings, we had a series of things to go look at. So I think the next thing that we'll do, there's no decisions made, is we're going to do a divide and conquer for some folks to kind of, take a look at one thing or another. Rob has some expertise in particular areas. There's some, definitions that need updating, things like that. Like the word family has a different connotation today than it did 30 years ago. So kind of updating some updating. So we'll see that. And Rob, I think did the spreadsheet make it to the website yet?
The historical zoning regulation amendments.
Yeah.
Yes, the link. There's I can actually forward that to the whole commission if you'd like. There is
Sure.
a link that will bring you right to it.
Yeah. So we put Karen did a great job in kind of parsing out that spreadsheet. If you recall, we had gotten the historical look at when every regulation has been changed or altered or whatever since the 60s. And so that got put on a spreadsheet and it was a little unsortable. So Karen did a great job at doing the best she can to kind of make it a little more sortable and referencing. And I think it'll help certainly the commission, if you want to look up, how did we get to where we are in a particular regulation, and also help the public to be able to reference that as well. So that'll be that's up and live on our spreadsheet.
And I can send that out
on our website, I should say.
I can send that out to the commission so you all have access to it as well.
Yep.
That'd be great, Rob. Thank you. Anything else, Peter? Okay. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Any other subcommittee out there that would like to offer a report? I think, Rob, you have something on the West Street study that's going on?
Yeah, they completed an existing conditions report. It just came into my inbox, I believe, last week. I have not had a chance to review it yet, nor has Jim, I think, or Dave Norris in engineering yet. We do have time. They've asked, I think it might be May 17th or something for review and any comments. We do have kind of a steering committee put together to review this, but I certainly could share it with the commission if you're interested.
People interested in seeing that? Sure,
It's
go
really
ahead,
just
Rob.
step one in the process anyway.
Yeah, it lays out the baseline for the
Correct.
moving forward, I think. So, okay, if you could share that around, it looks like people are interested in it. So
You want me to
just send
send
that
that
on
out?
to us. So, yeah, if you could, that'd
Okay.
be great. Moving on to item 9 or 10, depending on how you count, items to be scheduled for a public hearing. Rob?
Yeah, it's I don't have it right in front of me, but obviously, we've got it's very, very active right now. The list of pending applications is quite long. I don't remember being this long in several years. And according to Lou Perillo over Economic Development, more is coming. And I can tell you one thing that developed today too, just as as an aside, the Briarwood College that you all know so well, which was our very first digital meeting back in April 21st of 2020, where we had over 100 people. It was still the most participation we've ever had using this medium. They, as you may recall, the age restricted cluster housing zone was created for that property. Well, that's not going to move forward, it appears, at this point in time. So now I just had a conversation with the property owner, Dennis Terwilliger, and apparently they do have some school interested in taking over the space, and that might come to pass very soon, which would be essentially right now underneath the current zoning, it's a non-conforming use. So they can move in as long as they're the same use. There was never any intent to abandon the use. That's a legal term that is very hard to prove unless you have certain circumstances. But long story short, there's a chance also that they're going to propose to change the zone back to R40 so that they can have the access to do some other uses that are subject to special permit. You may recall that one originally, but I'm not sure what they're going to do. So that site remains in flux.
Yeah,
What's old again is new again.
Yeah, that's a key parcel in that part of town. So we'll see how it develops. One of the things I see under the new applications is that we have the gas station coming back on the Meriden Waterbury area that we actually did a zone change there to a B zone. Folks might remember. So that's a pending application as well. And a couple
As that stands
applications.
right now, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as that stands right now, that submission is grossly incomplete. So unless, if they don't submit anything revised at this point in time and we start to run up against any kind of timelines, I would recommend the commission deny based on incompleteness. But I guess there's reason to believe that they may get all their ducks in a row. There's something going on there between the client and the property owner.
Take it 2 weeks at a time and see where it goes.
Exactly.
And then we have a couple applications pending from the YMCA Camp Sloper that have to do with earth excavation and Sloper Pond. So
Yeah, that goes back quite a ways. I think that started before my time, and I'm on year 8 now. So it's been extended before, and I think there's some new technology they're going to use here, I guess, or whatever. I don't know if Jim has anything more to add there, but they're looking for another extension.
we'll save it for when the application is actually in front of us, I guess. Is there anything else for members of the commission? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Wait, Commissioner Volpe here.
Go ahead, Christina.
I would just like to throw it out there once more that if any of my fellow commissioners would like to participate in the discussion surrounding food trucks, that I am very open to your participation in that discussion and would love to hear from you. I'm going to be sending out a doodle poll by the end of the week So if you want to get in on that, you got to hit me up, because I don't know if you want to be involved, but as we go through the process and more food trucks go to ZBA, I want to hopefully have your input on that so that we can all be involved in this and come to a consensus. So let me know.
Okay. Thanks, Christina.
You can include me, Christina.
Thanks,
Okay.
Teresa. You're so fabulous.
You got it.
Appreciate that.
You get that, Christina?
I got it. I'm writing it down. Teresa's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. You got to fish that bit. So, thanks, Teresa. Anything else from members of the commission? Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion from Commissioner Salker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Santago with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Any
Yes.
opposed? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned. Good job, folks.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. Have a great week.
May the 4th be with you all.
Nerd.
Nice. I'm with you, Caleb.
And tomorrow is Revenge of the 5th.
Okay, nerds.
Oh, that's
Dark day.
Hey, Rob, before you go, though, if I shoot you an email, you got some time next week to maybe talk to me about this food truck stuff?
Sure, next week's great. I'm going to be in a virtual conference from tomorrow to Friday, so next week works.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, you got it. Have a good night.
Adios.